distributive property. So remember that the distributive property in general says that if I have A times B plus C. So remember that when a number like A is directly touching a set of parentheses, it means to multiply. So this is A times the sum of B plus C. The distributive property allows me to distribute the multiplication of the A to the B and the C. So A times the sum of B plus C becomes A times B plus A times C. So I'm just distributing the multiplication. So if I look at our first one, first thing I look for is if I'm going to need to change the subtraction to addition of the opposite sign, and I don't because there's an addition here. So I would say negative 7 times 2x would be negative 14x plus negative 7 times 7 is negative 49. Now, we have an x term and a constant term, so we can't combine those because they're unlike terms. So the only thing left to do is change our plus negative back to subtraction. So negative 14x minus 49. And anytime we have an addition of a negative, we'll be changing it to subtraction. Because if you remember, if we have something like 3 minus 5, we use our addition of the opposite rule, so that it becomes 3 plus negative 5. And this is a really good way of seeing that a plus negative is the same thing as subtraction. For our next one, number 2, we could change this minus 6 to a plus negative 6. But since we're distributing a positive number, a positive 7, it shouldn't be necessary to change it. It would just make more work for ourselves. So we're going to do 7 times 3x, which will give us 21x minus 7 times 6, which is 42. So we get 21x minus 42. For number 3, notice that we're distributing a negative 7. So I would change my minus 3 to addition of the opposite sign. So it becomes plus negative 3. And now we'll distribute. Negative 7 times negative 10x is going to be 70x plus negative 7 times negative 3 is positive 21. And we don't have any addition of a negatives in our final answer, so we're done. We don't need to change anything. In number 4, the only difference is that now we're distributing the multiplication of 4 to 3 terms instead of 2. It is a positive 4, so we don't need to change this minus 5y into plus negative 5y. We could do it, but it would just make more work for ourselves. So let's go ahead and distribute this 4 to each term inside our parentheses. So the first one is negative 4 times 2x, which is 8x, minus 4 times 5y, 20y, plus 4 times 7 is 28. And then I just check if there's any addition of a negative in here. Well, this is addition of a positive 28, so we don't need to change that. So we're done. For number 5, we are distributing a negative 3. So any subtraction, I will change to addition of the opposite. So minus positive 7m becomes plus negative 7m. Minus a positive 2 becomes plus negative 2. And now I'm going to distribute that negative 3 to each of the 3 terms inside the parentheses. So negative 3 times 5n is negative 15n plus negative 3 times negative 7m is positive 21m plus negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Now there are no plus a negative in my expression. So we're done. Finally, in number 6, we've got just a negative sign on the outside of the parentheses. And we've said that anytime you see just a negative sign, we want to think about that like it's a -1. Since I'm going to be distributing a negative number, this minus 5v I want to change to plus negative 5v. And now I will distribute that -1 to each of the 3 terms inside the parentheses. So -1 times 4w is going to give me -4w plus -1 times -5v will give me a positive 5v plus -1 times 8 would give me -8. And we can see right here we've got plus negative, so plus -8. That plus negative we want to turn back to subtraction. So that's going to give me a -4w plus 5v minus 8. And I am done.